So this is a new podcast that I'm going to be doing, and it's going to be specifically geared towards teaching what it is that I know and what I understand about manifestation and how it is that it actually works, and the way it is that we can think about it, that it will actually make it tangible to you, and it won't just seem like some theoretical idea that doesn't really have any grounding in reality. There's a lot of misunderstanding about manifestation, and I can totally understand why it is that manifestation would be misunderstood, because I myself have really struggled to understand it for quite a few years now. It's been about 4 or 5 years that I've tried to make it my central focus of my day-to-day studies. It started with reading, the basic things that people come across, like The Secret and What the Bleep and these sorts of things. And there's always been a good amount of skepticism, a good amount of doubt that I found myself in whenever I encountered these teachings. They always seemed like they were a little bit too human. They were a little bit too, too good to be true sorts of, ideas and philosophies. And a lot of scientifically minded people have, rightfully so, gone after some of these people that misconstrue these ideas. It's totally understandable to have a skeptical point of view whenever it comes to listening to something about manifestation. But for one reason or another, I've continued to return to it because it's something that I think deep down every human being knows is true. We know that we have a very intimate and very direct connection to our experience of the world, but we can't really explain it. And we also know when something is off and when we can't figure out why it is that things are just not aligning for us, when we just don't feel like we're in that groove. But we know that whenever we are in that groove, in that flow state, it seems like life just meets us more than halfway, right? And this is what it is that I've really discovered about manifestation. So what you're seeing now on the screen is what R.J. Spina calls the order of creation, which is desire, intention, thought, emotion, action, behavior. And this is the core of manifestation. Whenever it is that we say, for example, I'm an artist, that's one of the things I enjoy doing. Whenever we say that we want to be an artist, as an example, we have a desire. We have a desire that we want to create something and we want to put that into the world. We have to be clear about what our intention is whenever it is that we are considering that desire. Because the intention is essentially the gateway, it's the doorway that allows resources, people, circumstances, events, situations to move through us in a way that allows us to express what it is that we're wanting to express. Because life is something that gets expressed through us. It's not something that comes at us from the outside, okay? And this is something that if you're an artist, if you're somebody who is interested in creative activities, this is something it is that you notice about your own work. Notice that whenever you sit down to create something, that there is a very significant difference between going into creating a piece of work with a lighthearted intention versus being very controlled about what it is that you're doing. When you're trying to be very controlled about what it is that you're doing, you're essentially cutting yourself off from your higher mind. And your higher mind is where it is that your desires are coming from. So you could think of it almost like what we are, is we're kind of like those Russian dolls, the Russian dolls within one doll, within another, within another. And so what it is that we are is we're like those Russian dolls. And when we're in alignment with the doll that is of a higher size that is above us, we are in alignment. And this is something it is that artists know as the flow, right? You sit down to draw and you're surprised at what it is that you create because it comes out of you so effortlessly. And the result is so brilliant that you almost can't even believe that you did it, right? That is the kind of space it is that we want to exist in. Because regardless of whether we're talking about having money that's going to support us so that we can do the creative things it is that we're passionate about, or whether we're talking about how we're going to get this work in front of other people, or whether we're talking about getting the right ideas, it all has to do with being in alignment with our higher self. And this is directly related to our desire and our intention, right? So we can use the example that I just gave you, and we can compare it against another example. Let's say you have another artist, or this is something that all artists experience, but if you just think of it as a person, it might make it easier to understand. But we have one artist who's able to stay in that flow, and whenever it is that they sit down and they create, because they have a clear understanding of their desire, they have a clear understanding of their intention, then whenever it is that they create, everything just flows through them naturally. And not only does the work just flow through him naturally, but the process of putting this in front of the right people who may want to hire this person in order to do work, or the resources that have nothing to do with making money with your art seem to just show up for this person. And again, we've all had this experience, right? I'm just breaking this down as if it was two different people. Now you have another person, and this other person, maybe this other person is, they're out of alignment with their higher self, right? And so what does out of alignment with your higher self look like? Well, if we're looking at it from an artist perspective, what that might look like is it might look like going on to internet forums like Reddit and trying to post your portfolio, trying to find work, and trying to compete with other people in order to make money with what it is that you're doing. That might look like you going through websites like ArtStation, or looking at other artists, listening to other musicians, whatever your creative task is. It might be looking at these other people and then trying to copy what it is that they do because you know that it's successful. You know, Dave Raposa is one of my favorite artists. I've made videos about him on this channel. And, you know, he was really, he got a lot of people to follow his work and to hire him for work by doing some Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle illustrations. So you might look at something like that and say, oh, well, this worked for Dave Raposa, so let me go ahead and do that. Let me follow what Dave Raposa did because it worked. So this should work for me. But deep down inside, you don't care about the Ninja Turtles. Okay, what you like to do is you like to draw, you know, in my case, psychedelic type art. Stuff that's weird and strange, something that might be closer to M.C. Escher than somebody who does illustration work for Marvel or something like that. To me, that's not something that interests me, at least not now. Right? So there's a difference, right? And so what ends up happening is that we get stuck into this situation because we're not clear with our desire and our intent. We're not clear with our desires and our intent with ourselves, that we end up leading ourselves astray. Because what I want to say to you is that your higher self, which is a higher intelligence, is one link in an infinite chain, and that infinite chain is what we call God. And God is always trying to expand, and always trying to understand itself through the infinite amount of iterations that exist in this world. And you and me are one of those iterations. We're one of the fractals. It's like God is the process of what you see whenever you see a fractal, right? You see this fractal constantly changing and morphing. We are those fractals. We are a fractal of God. And God is wanting to understand itself. It's wanting to learn about itself through the direct expression of every individual fractal of God. And so you, as an individual, are totally unique. There is not another fractal. There's not another Russian doll. I don't know the name of the dolls. It starts with an M. You are a specific Russian doll that there is not any like it in the entire universe. So why are you trying to copy what somebody else is doing and thinking that it's going to work? Why are you not understanding that your higher self, the higher intelligence, is looking down on you, trying to follow somebody else's footsteps, and is shutting that door in front of your face? Not because it's punishing you, not because being an artist is not your path, but because it's trying to redirect you back onto your path. And this is the core thing it is that we're completely misunderstanding. And it's totally understandable, because we are constantly being bombarded all the time by people on social media or people in the media in general that are constantly trying to sway us with their opinion about what it is that they should or shouldn't do. And they may have very well good intentions, and I'm not saying that information is not useful in some context. It can absolutely be useful in that context, in a certain context. But what you have to understand is that if your desire and your intention and your thoughts and your emotion are not congruent, then you're basically putting the cart before the horse and trying to figure out why it is that you can't get anywhere. Okay? So the way it is that this works is, the first thing is that you need to build a relationship with your higher self. And this is something that requires honesty with yourself. It requires being honest with yourself about how it is that you have been people-pleasing and putting the things it is that you really want and the things it is that you deeply desire to experience in this reality. Because whatever you desire to experience is what God wants to experience through you, as the unique fractal of God it is that you are. So there are specific things it is that you have hidden from yourself, that you have put in the back burner, that you have ignored, because we have been raised in a society that has taught us to basically be people pleasers. Right? You think about the job it is that we work at. They tell you that if you smoke weed, we're gonna drug test you, and then if you get caught, then you lose your job, right? You have to wear a certain type of clothes. You can't get tattoos. You can't do this. You can't do that. And then it can go further than that. Are you censoring what it is that you want to draw because you think that maybe your wife or your husband might not understand it, might not get it? Or maybe your parents will think that you're weird, or your friends will think that you're weird. Or what about the whole artistic path to begin with? You know, we start out on this path and we feel rushed to try to make money with this path because we want to validate, we want other people to validate what it is that we're doing. We don't want to look like an idiot in front of other people. And that's a huge thing that's motivating all of our behavior. And so it's easy to see how it is that we end up putting the cart before the horse and essentially blocking you from your creativity. Because the only way it is that you will ever have access to your creativity, the only way, is that you are in alignment with your higher self. Your higher self, which is the analogy of the Russian dolls nested within one another, is a perfect analogy for this. Because you could think that it's a higher intelligence. We are nested within a higher intelligence, which is nested within another higher intelligence, and so on and so forth, and it just keeps going and going and going like this. Infinitely. But your higher mind is the one that has all the brilliant ideas it is that you're looking for. You know, we're so concerned about artificial intelligence and whether that's going to replace artists. The truth of the matter is that it's just going to replace, it's going to weed out the people that are not living in true alignment with their creativity. And like I said, you can look at your own experience whenever it is that you create something to know whether you're in alignment. Whenever it is that you're doing something that is from your soul, it is nourishing to you. It is giving you something back. When you're doing something because, I need to draw this thing because I'm an illustrator, like I used to do. I used to illustrate stuff for other people that I didn't even want to illustrate, but I did it because I needed the money, or I thought that was the path that I needed to take. And you know what it ended up doing? All it ended up doing was just burning me out. That's all it is that it did. Because there's nothing worse than drawing something it is that you don't care about because somebody else has some dumb idea, but you need the money and you want this to be your path in life, and so you feel like you have to sacrifice that. At the end of the day, it will just pull you further away from your higher self, because you will find yourself going further and further down that path. And then you will not be in connection with the thing it is that actually makes you you. And that's what this whole thing is about. All right, we want to be authentic to who it is that we are, and what it is that we are is a fractal of God. And so if you're identifying with anything else other than that, then you are fundamentally not going to be in connection with your creativity. Fundamentally. The connection it is that you have to your higher self is the primary thing that we should be aiming at whenever we're talking about being creative and having a way of supporting ourselves so that we can live the life it is that we actually want to live, not looking out at the marketplace. And so we don't want to identify, although it sounds paradoxical, we don't want to identify as an artist or as a musician, because as soon as it is that you do that, you've now pigeonholed how it is that you're going to make this work for you. Because now if you say, well, I'm going to be an artist, then all of a sudden your mind starts coming in and saying, okay, well, how are we going to make money at this? Well, we could do commissions for other people, or we could do original paintings and sell those, or we could do this, or we could do that, or we could whatever. That is not what it is that I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is that whenever it is that you live in alignment with your higher self, Whenever it is that you truly understand what it is that I'm saying, and you get clear with yourself about your desire and your intention, and you make your intention clear that what it is that you want to do is you want to create something that is going to have a positive impact on as many people as possible through the work it is that you're creating, and you want it to be authentic to you, and you actually get honest with yourself and begin to remove the things from your life that are not serving you because they're not allowing you to be who it is that you really truly are, and you begin to understand and experience yourself as being a fractal of God, then these questions it is that you have about how will I monetize this? What am I going to do about this? What am I going to do about that? Those things will answer themselves before the question even gets prompted to you. All it is that you have to do is stay in alignment with your higher self, be present in the moment, be present with what it is that you're doing, get clear on what it is that you're doing and why you're doing it, and follow every single step it is that the higher self puts in front of you, as it puts it in front of you. That's again a difference between there's a difference between when the mind is speaking to you and when your higher self is speaking to you. If this is resonating with you, then I can tell you right now you have a feeling inside of your chest that there is a sense of expansion happening in your chest right now. Right behind your heart and before your spine. In between your heart and your spine, you're feeling a sense of expansion in your chest, right? Now, notice that there's a difference in the way it is that you feel, the way it is that you feel inside of your body whenever you start to think about the 10 steps down the road it is that you need to make in order to make your creative passion doable. There is the complete opposite. There is a sense of constriction. There's a sense of the walls are closing in on you. The possibilities are now fading away from your experience, and there's literally a sense of constriction and tightness in your chest in that same area. Okay? Understand that what that is that's your higher self sending you a signal that is telling you when you're in alignment and when you're not in alignment. And when you feel that sense of constriction, then that's telling you that there's something it is that you're entertaining in your emotions and your thinking and your intention and your desire that is not in alignment with your higher self. So I'm going to go ahead and end it here. I am opening up to doing one-on-one mentoring for those that are interested. There's a link in the description box. And if you would like to check out my art, I've got some more stuff in my store that's available. So if you'd like to check that out, feel free to check that out in the link in the description box below. And thank you guys. Take care.